Hello everybody, my name is Radu. Today we have the LEDs lighting because I'm trying to change the things a little bit. So we have the LEDs. Today we are going to take a look again, as we did the last time, to Age of Empires 2 history, armies of the Dark Ages. This should be interesting. We have all this information here, and it's one page long, it's not even a page really. And we are going to take a look into this and see what. Shut the fuck up. And see what we can. Armies of the Dark Ages. The Germanic tribes that overran the Roman Empire at the start of the Middle Ages fought primarily on axes and swords, while wearing little armor other than perhaps helmets and shields. They were organized into war bands under the leadership of a chief. Okay, so basically, they were armies on foot and they were in bands with the chief. Okay, nothing new here. They were fierce warriors, but fought in undisciplined mobs. The disciplined Roman legions had great success against the Germanic tribes for centuries. Because emotional armies, are usually very fragile. When the Roman legion declined in quality and the empire ended, however, the Germanic tribes were able to push across the frontier. Okay. I don't know what army means. Not all Germanic tribes fought on foot. Exceptions were the Goths, who had adapted to horses when they settled previously north of the Black Sea. He's in Romania, by the way. I'm from Romania. Both the Visigoths and Ostrogoths learned about cavalry by being in contact with the Roman Empire south of the Danube and barbarian horsemen from Asia. The Eastern Roman Empire armies put a greater emphasis on cavalry because of their conflicts with mounted barbarians, the Parthians and the Persians. Following the fall of the Roman Empire, most fighting in Europe for the next few centuries involved clashes of foot soldiers. One exception might have been the battles of Britain, Arthur against the invading Saxons, although we have no evidence that his success was due to using cavalry. Arthur may have halted Saxon progress in 15 years, perhaps because of the cavalry or the use of disciplined troops. Another exception was the Byzantine army that recaptured North Africa from the Vandals and almost restored Italy to Eastern control in the 6th century. Okay, let's recap a little bit. Basically, cavalry and foot soldiers. Basically, the Germans really used foot soldiers more than cavalry, so that's why they were vulnerable to Roman attacks. The Goths used cavalry, they were in contact with it, and yeah, cool shit. Perhaps because of the was the Byzantine army. One was in Estonia. The strength of the Byzantine army of this period was cavalry. The Byzantines benefited also from both leadership and understanding of tactics that barbarians lacked. Basically, it's the same story as all wars between barbarian stabilized cities. Countries. The stabilized countries win. Fortunately or unfortunately, I basically think fortunately, and basically untrained soldiers and lack of cavalry and good equipment means you are vulnerable in war. Who would have thought? Not me, of course me. I'm very good at the history. Fighting in these 4th centuries rarely involved groups that could be described as armies. They were the same war bands as before, small by Byzantine or Asian products and employing limited tactics or strategy. The main military activities were raids to obtain loot in the form of food, livestock, and slaves. Aggressive tribes expanded by devastating the food production of enemies, starving them out, and enslaving the survivors. Battles were mainly clashes of warbands fighting hand to hand with axes, swords, and swords. They fought as mobs, not the disciplined formation typical of the Romans. They used shields only. The shields and helmets and war armor, some armor. Leather armor only chieftains and elites wore chainmail. In the early 8th century, Visigothic Spain fell to the warriors of Islam, many of whom fought as light cavalry. At the same time, nomadic from Hungarian plains increased their mountain raids on Eastern Europe. In 1732, a Frankish infantry army was able to defeat a Muslim cavalry raid near Poitiers. I don't know how to pronounce that, and I'm from France. Isn't it ironic? Ending Muslims' northward expansion. Charles Martel, warlord of the Franks, was impressed by the Moorish cavalry and began mounting part of his army. This conversion continued later in the century under the great king of the Franks. British heavy cavalry was the genesis of the mounted knights that come to typify medieval warfare. Nearly for 30 years, Charlemagne conducted military campaigns that extended the size of his empire. The Frankish army consisted of both infantry and armored cavalry, but the cavalry was his most valuable force and the part that got the most notice. It moved quickly and strike hard against foes, fighting mainly on foot. Charlemagne's campaigns were economic raids, burning, looting, and devastating enemies into submission. He fought very few battles against organizations. He fought exclusively on foot, except that it was their habit to gather horses under landing and use them to raid further inland. Their raids began in the late 8th century and in the 11th century. Of Viking raiders that became the Normans of northwestern France adapted quickly to the use of horses and became some of the most successful warriors in the Middle Ages. In the early 10th century, the Germans began developing the use of cavalry under Otto I, both as a rapid response to force against the Viking raids and to repel mounted barbarian raids from the east. By the end of the 10th century, heavy cavalry was an important component of most European armies except Saxon England, Celtic Alliance. Yeah, Celts in Age of Empires 2. That's good that they said this, because Celts in the game have one of the worst cavalries ever. Ireland, Wales and Scotland, and Scandinavia. Yeah, that was some interesting piece of history. Okay, next we have knights. And we are going to do it the next video. I'm going to try to post more Minecraft and Age of Empires 2 gameplay, not just Age of Empires 2 history. Until then, guys, I hope you liked my video. If you liked it, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. My name is Radu and see you guys next time to another video. Bye bye.